Clinton's campaign just won't leave the state alone. Even though voters tell pollsters they'll vote for her already, by a wide margin, double digits over Donald Trump in some polls of Colorado. Yet the Clinton campaign keeps coming back.
It's great to be back in Lakewood.
Vice presidential nominee Tim Kaine was here today in Lakewood, an invitation-only event where the public wasn't invited and reporters weren't invited to ask questions. But the campaign hoped that we would just put it on television anyway. Perhaps the more interesting question is why they're here, even if it is just for a photo op. Perhaps the Clinton campaign knows what our pollster extraordinaire Floyd Ciruli knows.
I think that if Trump could actually stay in a groove and focus on the major issues, he probably would have a chance.
Ciruli says Clinton's Colorado lead looks soft, and he thinks her team knows it.
I think it's definitely soft support. They recognize that this is still a very volatile electorate here. Many of those young people that she needs, for example, are really much more independent than their liberalism would give you reason to believe. They're not Democrats, and so consequently they could go for an independent candidate like Mr. Johnson or Ms. Stein.
And you know, there's another potentially devastating headline for Clinton today, if Trump can capitalize, which is this idea that the Associated Press analysis shows that half of the people that she met with as Secretary of State were donors to the Clinton Foundation. There's a lot of ways to explain that away, but it might not matter to the public.
I think that reinforces the trust issue, but it also goes to the issue that Bernie Sanders used so effectively in the primaries against her, and that is corruption.
Let me ask you a question that might just flip this whole thing on its head. Our conversation with pollster Floyd Ciruli continues in a bit on Next. There are nearly 1,500 people registered to vote at one single address in Denver, and it's perfectly legal. In fact, it's encouraged. It's people who are homeless, and they're registered to vote at the St. Francis Center. Today, the Secretary of State's office had staff out on Colfax Day reminding people that they didn't lose their right to vote when they lost their permanent address. Along with the 1,500 active voters registered at the St. Francis Center, there are 72 voters registered at the Denver Rescue Mission, another 71 at the Samaritan House. The number of newly registered voters from today's drive on Colfax is still being tallied. Colorado's DMV offices are busy issuing new license plates to people. That's good. Sometimes they're issuing the same plate number to multiple people. That's bad. Our Steve Steger explores the mess.
There's no doubt.
Denise Hilliard is a nice lady.
Well, I was expecting a toll bill because we had taken my son to the airport from Fort Carson, and I didn't get a bill, so I called them.
Who else does that? Call the toll company to pay a bill they never got? Then again, who else does this happen to?
When they said, oh, the red Chevy? And I said, no, it's a blue Oldsmobile. And she started looking, and she found pictures of both vehicles that were being billed to the same account.
Different car, but...
It's the identical plate number. It's odd.
We asked the DMV what happened, and they admitted to what could be a big problem. Back in December, they were making a new batch of plates starting with RA and RB, like Denise's. But they didn't double-check the database beforehand. So they actually created some duplicate plates. They had already started issuing them before they realized they didn't check. And they told us they're correcting problems as they find them, though they couldn't tell us how many duplicates they found. You can imagine the problems with duplicate plates go way beyond toll bills.
And I could have my car stolen, and if a police officer had occasion to stop her, she might be detained briefly.
Seems like an avoidable problem.
It's a matter of telling the computer, don't allow any duplicates.
Frankly, a lot of the folks at the DMV are stumped as to how this happened. The director didn't know about it when we called. They're going to investigate it overnight, follow up with us tomorrow, hopefully with numbers and instructions for folks who might think they have duplicate plates.
That's a weird one, Steve. Thank you. Because dumb isn't a crime yet, they're going to cite the Lookout Mountain spray painter with defacing property. Poor little tagger never had a chance. Someone on Lookout Mountain caught him in the act, got his face on video, even took a picture of his temporary tag on his car. Jeffco deputies put out the alert yesterday. This story was all over the TV news like stink on a monkey, and deputies got the guy to turn himself in. 18-year-old Stanley Stetler is looking at a fine of up to $1,000. The other dude looking guilty in that same video was not actually seen spray painting, so he wasn't charged. It would appear that Jeffco deputies are up to their elbows in human stupidity these days. They're also on the lookout for these two guys seen ripping shingles off a roof and throwing them at cars at an apartment complex near Bellevue and Sims. Unclear what it would possess someone to throw shingles off a roof at cars, and to be honest, it probably doesn't matter once these guys are in a courtroom. But Jeffco investigators need your help getting them there. If you recognize these two model citizens, you know what to do. Now, if the justice system really wanted to punish these fools, it would just say to them, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. Mom and Dad knew what they were doing with that line. It works. And the city of Longmont is so convinced, it's slathering shame on shoplifters, hoping to prevent repeat crime. Our Dan Grossman has the story.
Really, it's only a small majority of our population that are bad guys.
It happened only a few months ago at this Kohl's. A man just over 20 pays for a dress shirt but not the matching slacks. He stuffs those into a backpack and gets caught just before making it to the front door.
We get multiple theft calls every day.
But instead of being taken to officers like James Brown,
are you willing to say, I did this, I harmed other people, and I want to make things right?
The thief was taken to Kathleen McGoey.
That may sound kind of woo-woo, but it is a healing process.
And Linda Leary.
Responsibility doesn't have to look like remorse.
Both women work with the Longmont Community Justice Partnership. It's been leading the restorative justice movement in Colorado since '94. But it was only recently they decided to put theft victims through the same process of owning up to those they've hurt.
We're focusing on moving out of that identification as I'm a thief, I'm a bad person, and moving more towards, what do you want to do with your future? How are you going to get there?
This room is where it all happens. It's filled with victims, parents, police officers, and offenders. And while the focus may seem like it's on those who did the crime, the real attention goes to those who had to be on the receiving end of it.
The first goal is to ensure that the victim has their needs met, they have a voice, and they're not going to experience any additional victimization.
In the case here, it turns out the thief was never given a full-time job and worried that without those pants, he wouldn't look presentable at job interviews.
When you hear people sharing, what it was like for them, or parents sharing, my gosh, what it was like for them, you can't help but be moved.
You never know who may be worth a second chance.
They don't reoffend. They just don't.
For Next, this is Dan Grossman.
All right, quick check. Is the A line working today? RTD's troubled train to the plane? Wait for it? Yes. That's all. It's working. Just thought you should know. I mean, we tell you when it's not working. Seems only fair we tell you when the A line is functioning. That was not a test. This is.
This is how I feel when I get behind the wheel, when I'm like, I'm all right. I don't care if something happens to me. If I drive somewhere and I kill somebody,
that guy ended up in a recent social experiment put together by CDOT. A group of unsuspecting people were bussed around to 3 different breweries. The bus driver was in on the stunt, and he pretended to drink at each stop along the tour, and no one said anything. No, hey, buddy, how about you don't get sauced and drive us around? No, hi, friend, any chance you should give up the keys? Nope. People just rode around on a brewery bus with a potentially sloppy and dangerous driver. The driver was actually drinking NA beer the whole time. The point of the experiment was to show how easy it is to have a high enough blood alcohol content to be driving under the influence. CDOT hired a production company and paid actors to get across that very powerful message. All the best heroes have superpowers, and the ones at South Metro Fire Rescue, the ones who run into burning buildings, they have a new superpower, the ability to see through smoke. South Metro is spending the week training to attack fires in high-rises and commercial buildings. They're using these thermal imaging cameras which can see through the smoke to spot pockets of fire and to see victims. It works the same way during the training with a building that's due to be demolished in the fake smoke as it does during the real thing. Each South Metro firefighter has one of those cameras, and they do get good use out of them, sadly. South Metro has responded to close to 900 smoke alarm activations in big buildings this year, pretty comparable to 2015 and 2014. Take me to church.
The place is always busy.
A church with a first-of-its-kind recognition in Colorado. If Donald Trump is counting on the debates to change this race, our political analyst has some bad news for him. And one man's search to find where in Denver he misplaced his pants.
Hi there, I'm meteorologist Kathy Sabin, and there you are, just cruising through your week on a Tuesday, probably completely unaware that these clouds outside right now are going to bring rain to you when you wake up tomorrow morning, all part of a cool front that may actually bring us 1 or 2 or 3 of these, if we're lucky, but may also bring some thunderstorms that we'll be tracking in the afternoon. Now, the rain is beneficial and needed, below average for the month and for the year in terms of precipitation. It seems hard to believe with the weather pattern of the last few weeks, but all the heavy rain falling in southwestern Colorado. Flash flood watch posted there. With this cool front coming in, good chance you'll wake up to cloudy skies and showers for the morning drive. It won't rain all day, but you are going to notice the cool down after tonight. It's mild, kind of muggy out there. 57 will be your low. Sun's up at 6:19. It will be cloudy and maybe drizzly, a little bit rainy. There'll be a few thunderstorms in the afternoon, but kind of a taste of fall for the next 48 hours. Oh, the weather improves in time for the weekend, though. Warmer and drier on Friday, and check out that sunshine for both Saturday and Sunday, and a great game time forecast when our Broncos take the field on Saturday.
If your drive or walk around the city ever takes you past 14th and Lafayette and Cap Hill, you're passing history. So slow down next time and consider the role that the first Unitarian Society of Denver played in bringing social justice to our city and state. It's the first building in Colorado ever giving a historical designation for its importance in the LGBT rights history. Our photojournalist Mike Grady swung by today.
The entire building's architectural history and design does make it really unique in the city of Denver. The City Council has agreed unanimously to allow the building to be a historic landmark. We have been known since we started in 1871 as social justice centered. We couldn't do the work that we want to do as a congregation anywhere else. We housed the very first incarnation of the Gay and Lesbian Center. We have a Buddhist Sangha that has used our church for more than 15 years. We also open our doors to 12-step programs. It's very important to me because my husband and I got married here. When our minister married us and signed the certificate, that was perhaps one of the happiest days of my life. Our work is bigger than we are. Anybody who comes through the door is welcomed. And so I take great pride in knowing that we will always be here. Might not always be the same people, but we will always be here.
That building is Denver's 5th historic designation in 2016. It's quite the clip compared to previous years. The city had averaged 1 new landmark a year for the last 5. So if you geek out about history and politics, there's going to be a museum at your fingertips between now and Election Day. Hashtag Election Challenge is compiling photos of historic campaign buttons, bumper stickers, hats, banners, other memorabilia. It's actually a challenge for museums and libraries to show us what they're working with. Go into the stacks and the basements and come out with all these cool, forgotten old election items. Search hashtag Election Challenge. Each Tuesday between now and the Trump-Clinton apocalypse, you'll be seeing new memorabilia. Like there are these fortune cookie fortunes used in RFK's 1968 presidential bid. One reads, "New opportunities will come your way," both this year for RFK. Another reads, "A tall, dark, handsome man will come into your life. He supports Kennedy." The challenge is a project of the presidential libraries of the National Archives and PBS. And we checked, Denver Public Library plans to get in on the campaign next week. We return to our conversation with our pollster and political analyst Floyd Ciruli now. He's telling despondent Trump voters and exuberant Clinton fans these days that this race is not over yet. But he's quick to knock down some of the preconceived notions about the state of the campaign.
I think that people are also looking for that late September debate this.
But do debates really change the tenor of a race?
You know, historically they don't. And as you recall, the debate here, which Romney won overwhelmingly 4 years ago, didn't change that race except for maybe a week. And then it went back to where Obama had it in the bag, more or less, in his battleground states. But this is an unusual election, in my opinion, because so many people, while they are telling pollsters they've made a decision, whether or not it's their final decision, I think remains to be seen.
Let me ask you a question that might just flip this whole thing on its head. Trump was underestimated by journalists and by pollsters in the primary. Is it possible that we are so reticent now to be wrong again that people are afraid to say what the facts seem to indicate, which is that he's running a disastrous general election campaign and he's likely to get wiped off the map?
I do believe there is some of that, and that that he is doing so many things wrong that by conventional analysis, you would be pretty much ready to call this race and say that he can't win. The polls have moved about 1 point in the last week. If he actually could close a bit between now and Labor Day, I think there would be a mental reset in the press, a willingness to give him a little room here to see if this works.
A restaurant in Denver is now charging for stupid questions. And Next continues to cover the stories that truly matter.
It was a little bit of a mystery, so I went out, to try to investigate where my pants had gone.
Next does not endorse defacing traffic signs around town. But we're also not above showing you some of the best ones. Barbara Dine sent us a bunch. 2 are in Denver's Cheeseman Park. There's the pedestrian crossing sign where the pedestrian looks a lot like Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin. This is precisely what I imagine the pedestrian crossing signs look like on a NASA campus. Then there is another sign that clearly is a distracted pedestrian because there's no way that it's safe to cross the street while simultaneously hula hooping. And Barbara found this one up Sunshine Canyon in Boulder, an elk crossing sign or deer crossing sign with a cowboy on board. Again, these are totally not funny. You should not do this to signs around town. But if you see where someone else did it, just hashtag us, hey, next. Order up. Tom's Diner in Denver has a special item on the menu. Right between cottage cheese and mashed potatoes, you can order stupid questions. Perhaps you don't order them. Perhaps you just charge from them. It was a bit unclear to us, so we tracked down the general manager at Tom's to figure it all out.
And we get some stupid questions, can I get the breakfast sandwich for lunch? What are the monthly dues for the turkey club? Is the garden burger grown locally? That one's hysterical. We thought we should capitalize on all the stupid questions we were getting. It was time to charge. One of my favorite things is when they say, what's a stupid question? I say, so just one? Honestly, we wanted to keep the sense of humor. We're working here. We're here all the time, 24 hours. We never go home. Why don't we have some fun while we're here?
So the short answer is yes, you can order a stupid question for 48 cents. Tom's Diner plans to add a healthy options section to the menu, including take a lap around the block, skip your next meal, don't take yourself so seriously. Like that place. All right, it's a sign. Someone in town. The flyers at 2nd and Cook in Cherry Creek look like a joke. They sound like a joke, but they're no joke to Tor Steinke, who's searching for the bottom half of his favorite Hugo Boss suit. His pants might have dropped on the sidewalk outside the dry cleaners.
I'm kind of an odd-shaped guy. I'm tall and skinny. I couldn't see anybody actually wanting these pants or stealing these pants or, having any purpose for these pants. So, I put this flyer out about, hey, I lost my pants. Has anybody seen them? I really like this suit, and I really want to wear it. I've got the jacket, but I don't have my pants, so I'm a little bit bummed out.
I hear you, brother. Back in a moment to talk about what you want and what you don't. Thanks to all the very kind Next viewers out there suggesting home remedies for the fool who bit his tongue today. A woman tells me that as the mother of 2 sons, ice cream fixes everything. Somebody else suggested craft beer, specifically Butcher Knife and Steamboat. I like where you're going with that. And Amber says just Swiss with salt water. So that's a good idea. What you want and what you don't out of the show, we are trying to calibrate it to your needs. And Laura says, put a tie on, buddy. You're better than this. I'm actually not better than this. And I think we've established that by now. And Christy Slater on Twitter says, I want Next every weeknight. We are on every weeknight, Christy. So if you want it, here it is. Come and get it. You better hurry. It's going fast. See you next time.